Hi, this is UMAMAGESWARI from St.Joseph's College of Arts and Science. In this video, we are going to analyze the poem Roosting written by Ted Hughes. Let's see the brief introduction about the author. Edward James Hughes, who is born in 17th August 1930 and died in 28th October 1998, was an English poet, translator, and children's writer. Critics frequently rank him as one of the best poets of his generation and one of the 20th century's greatest writers. He was appointed as Poet Laureate in 1984 and held the office until his death. In 2008, The Times ranked Hughes fourth on its list of the 50 greatest British writers since 1945. Gist of the poem: Lupercal, a hawk, is given the power of speech and thought, allowing the reader to imagine what it's like to inhabit the instincts, attitudes, and behaviors of such a creature. The hawk has an air of authority, looking down on the world from its high vantage point in the trees and feeling like everything belongs to it. The poem is particularly keen to stress the way that violence, in the hawk's world at least, is not some kind of moral wrong but a part of nature. Let's discuss the theme of the poem. The theme of the poem is nature and violence. The hawk in the entire poem is personified. The hawk lacks its human qualities like mercy and humanity. It insists upon its rightful place within the natural order by describing the prey that it holds. Killing and violence are an integral part of nature. They inform the hawk's attitude and personality. Analysis of poem. Hawk roosting consists of 6 stanzas, each containing 4 lines. There is no set rhyme scheme to the poem. Hughes relies on free verse in order to convey his themes to his readers. Hughes has written it entirely in the present tense, which adds to the sense that the hawk has always been and will always be at the top of the food chain. The hawk serves as the speaker of this poem. His tone is confident and almost haughty at times, although his belief in his superiority appears to be more steeped in honesty. Let's discuss the poem. I sit in the top of the wood, my eyes closed, in action, no falsifying dream, between my hooked head and hooked feet, or in sleep rehearse perfect kills and eat. In the first stanza, the hawk seems to be deep in meditation. He does not feel threatened by anything in the wild, and therefore he can easily close his eyes and not worry about his surroundings. He is perched in a tree where he can easily look down on the forest he inhabits. Hughes uses interesting diction in this stanza in order to create imagery. He writes, between my hooked head and hooked feet, which emphasizes the dangerous and sharp beak and claws of the bird. In line 4, the hawk tells the reader that he is able to perform the perfect kill even in his sleep. Move on to the second stanza. The convenience of the high trees, the air's buoyancy, and the sun ray are of advantage to me, and the earth's face upward for my inspection. In this stanza, the hawk conveys to his reader how easy and convenient his life is. Everything in nature, it seems, has been made for the sake of his pleasure and ease. The hawk seems to be marveling at how much nature has given him. He is so emphatic that he even uses an exclamation point to convey his feelings. He claims that all of the aspects of nature makes his life more convenient. All is below the hawk. The earth sits below him so that he can inspect it from his perch. This dichotomy reflects the superiority of the hawk. Next stanza. My feet are locked upon the rough bark. It took the whole of creation to produce my foot, my each feather. Now I hold creation in my foot. The hawk is announcing his perfection to his reader. Again, he draws attention to his sharp claws locked into the tree limb as he perches. He possessed in order to produce just one of the hawk's feet and each and every feather on his body. The hawk proclaims he himself is God, more powerful than any being on both earth and in heaven. Let's discuss the next stanza. Or fly up and revolve it all slowly. I kill where I please because it is all mine. There is no sophistry in my body. My manners are tearing off heads. In this stanza, the hawk is essentially saying that he can do whatever he pleases. He can fly slowly through the air, taking in all of the sights beneath him. He can kill wherever he pleases because all of the world belongs to him. There is no need to lie or pretend otherwise because the hawk can prove his power by tearing off the heads of his victims. Next stanza. The allotment of death for the one path of my flight is direct through the bones of the living. No arguments assert my right. In this stanza, the hawk is so godlike in this stanza that he says he chooses who lives and dies. The one flight he makes is the one who takes to kill his prey. There are no arguments necessary because he is all powerful. Let's discuss the last stanza. The sun is behind me. Nothing has changed since I began. My eye has permitted no change. I'm going to keep things like thee. The sixth and final stanza closes hawk roosting is an absolute way. The hawk claims that the world has not changed since he was created. Since then it has been perfect and permanent. He says it has not changed because he has not allowed it to do so. Hence, the poem explores the perspective of a hawk as it perches and observes the world around it. Through its use of poetic devices, the poem conveys the hawk's sense of dominance and self-centeredness. The poem begins with a stark and powerful statement, I sit in the top of the wood, my eyes closed. This line immediately establishes the hawk's perspective as the center of attention, and the use of the word top suggests a sense of superiority and control. The phrase my eyes closed also reinforces the hawk's sense of self absorption and attachment from the world. Throughout the poem, the hawk is portrayed as an almost godlike figure with the power to control and dominate its surroundings. The hawk is described as having hooked head and hooked feet, which reinforces its predatory nature and sense of mastery. The metaphorical comparison to a god and a tyrant further emphasizes the hawk's sense of superiority and entitlement. The poem also uses repetition to reinforce the hawk's sense of control and stability. The phrase I sit is repeated several times throughout the poem, emphasizing the hawk's stillness and sense of unwavering confidence. The hawk is also described as having no falsifying dream and no arguments, which creates a sense of clarity and simplicity. One of the most striking features of the poem is its use of enjambment, which creates a sense of momentum and forward movement. The lines flow seamlessly into each other, creating a sense of fluidity and motion. This reinforces the idea that the hawk is an active force in the world, constantly exerting its will on its surroundings. To conclude, Hawk Roosting is a poem that explores the perspective of a hawk as it observes the world around it. Through its use of poetic devices such as metaphor, repetition, and enjambment, the poem conveys the hawk's sense of dominance and self centeredness. The poem is a powerful and evocative portrayal of the natural world and the predatory instincts that shape it. Let's discuss the poetic devices used in the poem. Some of the poetic devices used in the poem include enjambment, metaphor, repetition, alliteration, imagery, and personification. Enjambment is the use of run-on lines where the sense of one line carries over to the next without a pause. This technique is used throughout the poem to create a sense of momentum and to emphasize the hawk's sense of power and control. Metaphor. The entire poem is a metaphor for power and control, as the hawk is used to represent these concepts. For example, the line, the manners or tearing of heads, uses the metaphor of manners to describe the hawk's violent behavior. Repetition. The repeated use of the word I throughout the poem emphasizes the hawk's egocentric perspective and sense of self importance. Alliteration. This is the repetition of consonant sounds, usually at the beginning of words, and it is used in the line, My feet are locked upon the rough bark, to create a sense of the hawk's strength and grip. Imagery. The poem is filled with vivid and striking imagery that helps to create a sense of the hawk's power and control. For example, the line, The earth's face upward for my inspection, creates an image of the hawk looking down on the world from a position of superiority. And finally, personification. The hawk is given human like qualities throughout the poem, which helps to emphasize its sense of superiority and control. For example, the line, The sun is behind me, personifies the sun as if it is the following the hawk's lead. Overall, these poetic devices help to create a powerful and impactful poem that captures the essence of the hawk's perspective and mindset. Thank you.